Rockets and Knicks were in Game 5 when O.J. started that fateful drive. His four-way hazard lights were blinking, and no one knew what the Jews was thinking.
I've been to Reno, Chicago, Fargo, Minnesota, Buffalo, Toronto, Winslow, Sarasota, Wichita, Tulsa, Ottawa, Oklahoma, Tampa, Panama, Mattawa, La Paloma, Bangor, Baltimore, Salvador, Amarillo, Tocopilla, Barranquilla, and Padilla. I'm a killer. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Cross the desert bare, man. I breathe the mountain air, man. I've traveled, I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere.
This is Oversight Live, your advocate for good governance. We're putting the site back in. Oversight. Here's the watcher on the wall, your host, Ben Carpenter.
Good evening, Alaska. Welcome to Oversight Live. I am Ben Carpenter, your host for the evening. This is your road to Juneau until one can be built. I love saying that. I'm just planting the seed. Hopefully we can have a road built to Juneau. Cut down some nice trees along the way. Make a nice straight road. We'll all be able to travel. Think of the cost savings that you won't have to ship by ferry to many of the communities. Wouldn't it be great? All right. I may be wishing. Probably never going to happen. Anyway, look, Oversight Live exists so we can get our questions answered and we can provide better oversight of our government. I spent 6 years in the legislature, and I am using that experience to help you understand what's going on. I'm sharing my knowledge and my experience. All you got to do is ask a question. I'll do my best to answer it. If I don't know the answer, I'll help you find the answer. Much of what happens in the legislature is kind of like a foreign language, and it's hard to understand because there's not anything quite like the legislature anywhere else. So I'm here. I will help as best I can. If you're watching this show, and so we're broadcasting on Facebook, X, and YouTube, you can chat in the chat window there and send a message to me, and I'll get it live on the air, and I'll do my best to respond in real time or sometime tonight. If you're watching the recording and you have a question, you can email me, producer@oversightlive.com, and I'll do my best to answer your question via email. And don't be surprised if I use your question on air, because this is the whole point of this show, is to help us understand what's going on. And if you've got a good question, it means somebody else has likely got the same question. All right. So we're going to edify the whole group here by sharing good questions. And we're going to try to have some fun, because what else are you going to do at 7:00 at night? Are you going to binge on Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like that? Probably. You're not watching TV anymore. It's all streaming services. All right. So we'll get going here. Frank has got a question right off the bat. Why hasn't any more bills transmitted to the governor? Okay, so why haven't there been more bills transmitted to the governor? I don't know how many bills should be transmitted to the governor. We could go back to the record and find out how many were passed out of the legislature, and then compare that to how many have been transmitted to the governor, and know whether there's still some remaining to be transmitted that haven't been. But I would guess at this point, if they haven't been transmitted, that means there aren't any to be transmitted. I think that probably is what that means. It could be that there's some that need to be transmitted that just needed some additional processing or something. I mean, some of these bills needed, because there's a whole bunch of them passed at the last minute at the end of the legislative session, right? Well, the lawyers may have to still go through there and do some cleanup of each one of those bills before they can actually be official and sent off to the governor for signature. And that process takes time. And then, oh, by the way, we've got a couple special sessions that have started, and the legislative attorneys' attentions have been on maybe answering those questions as a higher priority than getting the bills done that the legislature rushed to pass at the end of the regular session. So I would assume that we're rapidly approaching the time where there are no more bills to be transmitted, because we've transmitted everything that was passed by the legislature, if we haven't already reached that time. And again, 15 days after the governor receives them is how long he's got to consider the vetoes. So sometime here in the next couple of weeks, we'll hear another round of vetoes from the governor. Rick says, I have no questions at the time. Thank you, Rick, for letting me know that you have no questions. Yeah, I told you I might be dreaming, Frank. Yes, we can't get a road to Ambler. We're certainly not going to be able to get one to Juneau. I get it. I get it. But you got to start somewhere. And if I'm the only one planting the seed, then fine. I'll be the farmer and I'll plant the seed. It'd save the state and save local municipalities a lot of money to have a Juneau road, like connecting Southeast Alaska to the road system. I mean, your food costs should come down because now you don't have to transport everything by ferry. I mean, there's some communities that you would still have to transport over water, but many you would be able to have trucks without ferries. I mean, it has the potential of reducing the cost. Major cost for a road, though, right? Anyway, we're off that. Craig is asking a question before we get started. Are you going to be working with Demboski? Have no idea. I have not talked to her. I understand that she has finished her time with her radio program and has got something else in the mix. I don't know what that is. It isn't. She hasn't clued me in, so I don't see that she and I. We have no plans to work together at this point. I did send her a message that said 7 p.m.'s off limits. That's mine. That's all right. She wants to start a 7 p.m. show. That's fine. More power to her. You canceled it. Yeah, we don't do Netflix anymore either. Who was it? Rick said that. It's kind of trashy, to be honest. Not a whole lot there for me. Yeah, speaking of things that are impossible to do, moving the legislature. Yeah, all we'd have to do is appropriate the money and then we could make it happen. But my goodness, that is a tough nut to crack there. Okay, I'm going to crack the whip and get us going here. You tuned in to hear something pertinent, and I've got to come up with something pertinent here. All right. So a couple of days ago, this was as of the 20th, the Senate read across the floor and sent to finance a couple of bills. And this is important because we've got a couple different options of where we could be headed. Okay. So House Bill 3001 and 3002 were read across. 3001 is a gasoline tax bill. 3002 is a pass-through entity tax bill. So think Hillcorp Tax LLC tax bill. Okay. Those bills were by request of the governor, so they're could be viewed as a formality because he called this next special session and had some bills on it that are the things that he wants to have worked on. It doesn't mean that they can't bring forward their own bill, which is in the conference committee right now, which is the House Bill 381. But, and this is kind of the crazy thing here. Let me show you. Get the right buttons working here. So this is, if you go to the state legislative website and you click on the committees or highlight it, and then you can scroll down to conference committees. And you click on conference committees and this bad boy hops up. So the only scheduled conference committee right now is the budget bill, are the budget bills, 268 and 270, which is during the regular session. So there is not, the website has not been updated. Neither has the calendar been updated with any kind of conference committees. And I have it on good authority that the conference committee has not met yet, or has not met. It might be premature to say yet. There's nothing requiring the conference committee to meet. Both presiding officers have established members, but if the presiding officers and the bodies are not going to follow up and require the conference committee to meet, right? If the majority in each body, in the House and the Senate, if the majority doesn't care whether the conference committee actually meets and does business, then theoretically they don't have to meet. So you've got another special session. You've got governor's bills that have come across. What is going to be the priority? There's nothing yet on the schedule that defines what the priority of the legislature is during this special session. The formality is that the bills got read across the floor that the governor put forth. So I'm talking about 3001 and 3002. Okay, so it's a formality. Governor sends the bills, the clerk reads the bills, and the presiding officer, speaker in the House and Senate president in the Senate, assign it a committee, and they both got sent to finance. Okay, so now finance committees have got the new bills. HB 381 has already passed both bodies and is sitting in a conference committee, but that conference committee has not been scheduled. There's no meeting scheduled. Nothing on the calendar. Okay. My understanding from earlier today is that the conference committee is going to meet, and there is a plan to broadcast at least the results of the conference committee. So what we know right now is that if the conference committee is doing work, and let me back up and say, the membership of the conference committee is made up of Speaker Edgman and Representative Schrage from the majority in the House, and Representative Schrage is a co-chair of finance. And then the minority member that comes over from the House is Representative Ruffridge. 3 members to the conference committee. From the Senate president assigned the co-chairs of finance, 2 of the co-chairs of finance, Hoffman and Stedman, as your majority members. And then the minority member coming from the Senate is Representative Kronk, who's the Senate minority leader. Okay. So those 6 individuals are going to theoretically get together and have a committee meeting and decide what versions of the Senate and what versions of the House amendments and versions of the bill 381 is going to go forward to both bodies for approval or not. Like if they never meet and never talk about it, then I guess no results ever come from the conference committee. There's nothing forcing them to meet other than the majority's will, asking them, please, we're expecting you to do this. The public might be expecting it because it's been telegraphed, but theoretically, there's nothing saying they have to meet. Now, there's nothing on the calendar, which means that the committee members are either not working on it because there's no meeting scheduled. They don't have there's nothing the public's going to be able to watch because it's never been scheduled, right? So they're either not working on it or they're working on it behind closed doors. They're meeting and having a conversation about what they think needs to happen. And here's the way that most of your budget conference committees happen. The members show up at the conference committee where it's actually being broadcast, where you and I are watching. And they go through the lines of the budget document and they say, we accept lines 1, 2, 5, 7, and we hold open lines 3, 4, and 6. Okay. So the ones that they approve are approved and they go forward as adopted by the conference committee. And then they have the other lines that are more contentious and they have to figure it out. Okay. And then that meeting ends. And then the next meeting is scheduled, and the next meeting happens, and now we hear the results of 3, 5, and 6, right? Those lines. They talked about it behind the scenes. They never have a conversation about it, the deliberation in the actual conference committee. And then they just come forward and say, okay, we're going to accept House version of 3, line 3, Senate version of line 5, and then that gets added to the previously adopted lines and it goes forward. Okay. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that in my experience, conference committees, you don't know what's going on. You only know the results of what's happening. So any conversation, any deliberation, any deliberation is the best word to use. Any deliberation is all done in the dark of night, behind closed doors. We don't ever get to know it. As a legislator, I don't get to know it. I don't even know where they meet. I don't know which office they meet in. Maybe they go down to the local triangle and meet at the bar and have a conversation. I don't know. There's not a formal meeting. But somehow the budget gets done and they come up with the right agreements for both bodies to agree and move forward and pass a budget. Okay. But we don't ever know what is said or what is worked out. We just know the results. So I'm applying that experience, that precedent, that the way things have been to this scenario. And I'm saying there's nothing calendared. There's no meeting scheduled, no conference committee meeting scheduled that I can find on the internet. Maybe it is, and I just have missed it. And then I stand corrected. But if it's not scheduled, then I don't know whether they're meeting or not. Okay. So that's one path. We could see the legislature act on HB 381 and find a resolution. And then the bills that got read across for this next session are irrelevant if you've got a solution. Okay. Now the other path could be the case is that 381 is just going to die. It'll just get neglected and nothing will happen with it. And they'll turn their attention to 3001 and 3002 being two separate documents, separating out the arguments, one of which is a income tax proposal that was added to a property tax bill, volumetric tax bill, right? So the governor has put two different proposals on the table. One of them is dealing with the Hillcorp tax, pass-through entity tax. And then the rest of the bill is likely similar to 381, or at least the governor's version of 381. Now, I did review 3001. Let me see if I can pull that up. And there is something that stood out that was not, that I don't think was in the previous versions of the bill. I could be wrong. Okay, so we got to share this tab. Okay, so this is, we're looking at the website that is Finance Committee, Senate Finance. Scroll down here. Okay. Senate Bill 3001, oil and gas, property tax, municipal tax, AGDC, and then 3002 is to repeal pass-through entity income. That's an interesting bill. We'll look at that in a minute. So if you click on this, it'll take you to the actual bill, right? You can click on full text, click on PDF. Bam, there's the document, okay? So we're on page 21. We'll just show everybody here. This is Senate Bill 3001, version A. Senate rules by request of the governor. Introduced June of 26. Okay, so that's the bill we're looking at. Scroll back down here to the page that I was at because this is what I wanted to talk about. I don't know whether this was in any of the previous bills. I don't remember the conversation happening on the floor. What I'm talking about is section 22. I will stand corrected if somebody will chime in and let me know that this was a proposal that was discussed previous. This is an interesting situation. So what section 22 is doing, it's adding a new section to Article 6. So this is all new statute, okay? They're establishing what they're calling the Alaska Affordable Heating Fuel Fund. because it has the words affordable, you know exactly where it's headed, right? The Alaska Affordable Heating Fuel Fund is created as a separate fund in the state treasury. Okay, so they're establishing the structure for which to collect and deposit money into. The fund consists of the amount determined and deposited in the fund under B of this section, so below, we'll get to it in just a second, and interest earned on the fund balance. Section B, the amount to be deposited into this fund is 20% of the revenue received from the state's royalty gas. Okay, remember that the state takes a portion of the gas going down the pipeline as royalty, or it can take the royalty as its own royalty gas. Okay, so the value of that, once it's sold, 20% of that would be deposited into the Affordable Heating Fuel Fund. Okay. That deposit may not interfere with the deposit to the Alaska Affordable Energy Fund or the contribution to the Public School Trust Fund. So they're defining here that it is separate and doesn't mess with other appropriations that would go to different funds. So this is above and beyond what has already been discussed or what's already policy. Section C says the legislature may make appropriations from the Alaska Affordable Heating Fuel Fund to fund programs that will reduce the cost of heating fuel in areas of the state that are not expected to have or do not have direct access to North Slope natural gas pipeline. Nothing in this section creates a dedicated fund. Important to remember. Okay. So let's just mull on this for a second. All right. We have in our structure right now, our finance structure, a thing that you're all probably fully aware of. It's the I was going to call it AEA. It's not AEA. It is PCE. There we go. Power cost equalization. Okay. If you're not familiar with PCE, this is a program. It is a fund that was established so that money can be collected into it, similar to the Affordable Heating Fuel Fund. And it was an agreement that was reached between the Bush communities, the Bush Democrats, as you would call it, and we're kind of straying out of the policy arena, looking at structure of bills and into the politics of the matter just a little bit. Okay. So in the past, when there was money that was going to be appropriated to improve the intertie and the energy along the rail belt, which had nothing to do with the cost of energy in Bush, Alaska, the Bush Democrat, the Bush representative said, "Hey, wait a second, we don't benefit anyway from this money that's being spent on the rail belt." And thus we're kind of objecting to that. Or in order to gain our vote, why don't we establish this fund so that as the rail belt benefits from this large sum of money that we're going to appropriate, that Bush communities also benefit? So they established this structure. And when I say structure, I'm just meaning words on a piece of paper. It's law. It's a formula that directs certain monies to be appropriated. Okay, I'm going to have to explain myself a little bit here, but it directs certain monies to Bush communities based on the cost of energy for the rail belt. So the net effect here, it is as your cost of energy goes down on the rail belt, the amount of subsidy available for Western Alaska goes up. So as the investment and the money that the legislators agreed to spend back in the day, as that benefits the rail belt in lower cost energy, there is an inverse relationship with the amount of money that's available to Bush, Alaska through this PCE subsidy. So this is a good thing for Western Alaska because the lower the cost of energy along the rail belt, the more money that they have to help reduce the cost of heating oil, fuel, electricity generated by generators and that type of thing out in Western Alaska. So that's what was established back in the day. Okay. So now fast forward a couple decades, we're having another conversation about a infrastructure project that's going to benefit predominantly the rail belt. Southeast Alaska doesn't have anything to do with gas. I mean, they're not going to benefit directly from a gas pipeline, as in a pipeline, a spur line running to Southeast Alaska. Neither is Western Alaska. So now it appears, just checking to see if anybody's corrected me, doesn't look like it. It appears that they're going to establish a second fund that ties the cost of gas, or the benefit of gas, to the benefit of lower cost energy in Western Alaska. And this is what you call a political compromise. So does this telegraph that there is a way forward for certain senators who are not on the rail belt to be able to go back to their constituents and say, hey, look, I supported this pipeline and this is the benefit that's going to come from us. We're going to see additional subsidies from this project. We're going to directly benefit from this project to our communities, even though we aren't actually getting gas from the pipeline. Okay. So 20% of the revenue coming from the royalty portion of the gas set up in the statute would go to this fund. And then because it says legislature may make appropriations, every legislative budget season, there would have to be a determination made as to how much money goes out to Western Alaska. Or I say not Western Alaska, it would be directly to areas that are not expected to have or do not have direct access to a North Slope natural gas pipeline. Okay. So yes, Western Alaska, but also Southeast Alaska, anywhere that doesn't, the Aleutian chain, right? You don't have, pipeline's not going to be run down to the Aleutians. So I look at this and I say, okay, well, this might be a sweetener for the deal or a way to find a compromise. Again, our state has always worked on this type of compromise where there's plenty of money flowing around and you win support for a whole host of projects and things by making sure that money is handed out to various communities. So this is historically nothing new to the state of Alaska. Okay. Major project with regard to electricity generation, and you get PCE. Major project with regard to a gas pipeline, and you get the, I don't know, what are you going to call this? The AHFF, the Affordable Heating Fuel Fund. Boy, they could have come up with a name that rolls off the tongue. The OFF, the AF, the OFF. I'm just looking. AHFF. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. So maybe this is a kind of telegraphing that there is a path forward in the Senate. Maybe because this was a bill requested of the governor. This is completely a governor's idea, and he's just throwing a crumb out there that says, hey, I really want my gas pipeline. I'm willing to give up some of the revenue that's being generated and not give it up, but direct it to the communities that aren't attached to the pipeline so that you're benefiting just like the rest of the rail belt would be benefiting. Okay. Not necessarily a bad idea, because now you've got people that would be interested in having that money. Maybe that wins some folks over. Anyway, I don't remember listening to any committee meetings where this concept was discussed. So maybe it's new. It appears to be new, and at least it's new to me. This bill has, I was about to say, has not been scheduled. Let me just double check that. Nope. That bill has not been scheduled for a meeting either. So as of right now, neither the conference committee nor the finance committees have any meetings scheduled for the next special session. Read into that what you will. I don't know what it means. It might mean we need to take a break and we'll come back and re-engage soon. It might mean we've already done our work. We're done. You vetoed our bills. We'll just wait and see if you're going to veto any more of our bills. You got plenty of time till the end of the special session. Then they can do the work all at the last couple days, like they did this last special session, like they did the previous regular session, like they do every single year, right? I mean, it's a script that writes itself every year. You just know what's coming. You know what's going to happen. Okay, let me check in with you guys here. I have something else to talk about, but I want to catch your questions here. Okay. HB 93 still says awaiting transmit. Okay. Don't know why. We can find out. I would have to ask. You can ask your legislator as well to find out why it hasn't been transmitted. Let me just really quick look it up and see if I can discern why. HB 93 says Frank. Nope, we want. And you want to see what I'm doing here, right? So we're looking at HB 93. House concurred with Senate amend on the 17th of May. Let's scroll all the way down here. The bottom, it says awaiting transmittal to governor. Yep. So referred for enrollment, which means just that it's ready to go to the governor. Yeah, so there's nothing here that's telling me. Yeah, there's nothing here that's telling me giving me any explanation for why it would be waiting. The only thing that I can say, let me just take a look at the bill itself here. Enrolled. What is the, okay, so it takes effect January 2028. I don't know whether this has anything to do with it, but they're going to have to adopt regulations. Maybe they're waiting on some feedback from the administration with regards to that. That wouldn't necessarily, in my mind, hold up the bill from going to the governor to be signed, but it is a possibility. Maybe there are some legal questions about this, and that's why it hasn't been transmitted yet. So they've got somebody's raised a legal question as to whether this is appropriate or not. Yeah, I don't, there's nothing here that's jumping out at me that's telling me why it would not have been transmitted yet, but those are some of the reasons that I could think that potentially, sometimes we're only human, right? So we might have made a mistake with the legislature may have made a mistake in passing a piece of legislation. A drafter could have made a mistake, and there's some constitutional, somebody's brought up a constitutional issue or something. And so instead of sending it to the governor and making a mess of it, they just hold on to it and don't transmit it, even though it's passed both bodies and is technically capable to go to the governor. They hold on to it and say, hey, wait a second, we might have to address this. I don't know whether that's the issue or not, but conceivably that could be it. It could just be that it's the last on the list. And as they have worked through the list of documents or bills that they have to process to go to the governor, this is the last one or near the end waiting. Okay. One thing we could check real quick, we go to bills and passed legislation, and that'll pop up. Hopefully my internet's still working here. There we go. So we want only things that are in the second session, pass both houses. And I'm just looking for awaiting transmittal to governor. We could be here a while. looking for this. What is just past HB 93? It's not on this list. This is bills. Why is HB 93 not on here? Oh, there it is. Yeah, so that's not the most recent status. I don't know what the deal is here. Maybe they forgot about it. Maybe it fell into the crack and somebody needs to look down between the floorboards and see that there's a bill waiting to get transmitted that needs to be transmitted. Yeah, that's interesting. Anything that says House concurs, Senate amended, and it's ready, it should go to the governor. So I don't know. I can't answer your question, Frank. We'll have to do some research. Let me make a note. HB 93 ? What up? All right. Yes, the only thing that is scheduled right now within the legislature is the ethics committee to hear about Representative Vance's situation. So that ought to be dramatic and what a waste of time. So the House has 7 things waiting, transmit to the governor. How do they do that? Well, not inside. So just because the legislators are not there, they've already done their portion. They've already voted. They've done what they need to do. The full-time staff is who processes things now. So as long as the legislature has done the formality of passing the bill, the staff that like the permanent full-time nonpartisan staff, meaning not legislator staff, but the full-time staff, the clerk's office, they process the legislation and the legislators can go home. So they can continue working. It's not required for them to be the legislature to be in session in order to do the formalities of processing those bills, is another way to say it. Okay. Craig asks, why is it the conference committee required to have the same transparency as standing committees? Well, they do what they can get away with. They come in, and when they take a vote, which is the bare minimum, it's on the record. You don't have to justify your vote. You don't have to justify why. You just come in and vote. Bare minimum. Is it good governance? Is it what you expect? Is it what Alaskans expect? No. But again, if you're not willing to unelect somebody for behaving that way, there's nobody that's going to force them. It's the legislature. They don't report to anybody other than you, the voter. I don't disagree with you, John. Thanks for participating tonight. All government must be done in the open and available for all to see. I'm in complete agreement. Shoulda. It should. It doesn't. But it should. This is a good segue. Yeah, let's pause here for just a second. No, I'll come back to it. This concept of should is where I want to go next with some interesting news. I'm going to get through your comments here real quick. Okay. Frank is asking the no compete portion. I don't know what you're referring to, Frank. Give me some more detail on your question. Oh yeah, this is exactly what it is, Willie. Good evening, Willie. Sounds like a Hoffman plan to funnel money to the fuel suppliers and the worthless PC. Look, the communities that get PCE money, they spend it. It's not worthless to them. It has value to them. Again, this is the nature of politics in Alaska. You don't have enough votes. The people don't send enough people to the legislature to make decisions without considering the Bush Democrats. That's the way it is. They got enough numbers, they come in, and now you have to find a compromise. When we've got plenty of money, and that's what has happened over the last decades, is there were plenty of, when there's lots of oil money, you just handed it out. You just handed projects out, and it greased the skids for yes votes on a whole lot of things. As long as I'm bringing money back to my district, I can say yes to a lot of things, right? That's the theory. So this is another example. We want a gas line bill. The legislators that are on the rail belt want a gas line bill. Well, if you're going to get the votes of the people who aren't on the rail belt, you got to find a reason for them to vote for it. That's the compromise. Now, whether it's Hoffman's plan or whether it's the governor just knowing how things work, and is like a light bulb clicked on, and he's like, they might not be able to say no to this, and adds it into the bill. I don't know. I don't know where the impetus of that comes from or how it was created, how it came to be. Yes, agreed. The Bush benefits when the cost on the rail belt stays cheap. That way, everything we get out here stays lower. Yeah. So, I mean, if the rail belt is energy costs go up, transportation costs go up, that means your goods that get transported out to Western Alaska go up, right? Yeah. So, I mean, this is a way. Again, we make a policy. We continue a policy over the generations that maintaining communities in Western Alaska is something that is to the advantage of the whole of Alaska. It is something of our identity. Okay. This is an expensive way of doing things because many of the communities out in Western Alaska do not support themselves. Like they require support. They don't have an economy of their own. They're not self-sufficient. If the state budget didn't help and if the federal government didn't help, the communities would dry up, right? So we're making a policy call that says we're better as a state, as a people, to maintain those communities, and that comes with a cost. This is the cost. This is the political cost and the financial cost. 20% is the financial cost. The political cost is you got to say yes and vote for it in order to get your gas line. But in the end, you have a gas line with low-cost gas for the rail belt, and there is money being shared out in Western Alaska. So it looks like a win-win as long as we can get there, right? Maybe it's not most efficient. There's nothing about this human experiment in legislation and self-government that lends to efficiency. It's quite the opposite. Rick, are you talking about what we were just talking about with regard to the Rural Energy Fund? Do we trust Glenfarne, and do we have a choice? I really want to see this pipeline as much as you. They are the only game in town. Yeah, I don't see anything we've been talking about this far has anything to do with Glenfarne. It's completely separate from Glenfarne. If you're asking a larger question about the viability of the pipeline, then I guess we could have that conversation. But Glenfarne's putting their money on the hook. Okay. Who writes the governor's bills? I'm not entirely sure. he's got staff that works with the legislature, but I don't think they're not the attorneys. So it is likely somebody in the Department of Law that is detailed to helping the governor with his bills. Just thinking here that's probably where it's at. That's where the attorneys reside within the executive branch. So it's probably somebody in Department of Law is writing that bill. Rick asks if Glenfarne has had any public meetings. Separate from the legislature. I know that there was a rally down here in Soldotna, and there might have been rallies elsewhere. If that's a meeting that they had where one of the representatives spoke and tried to get the crowd engaged in engaging the legislature. I don't know that they've had any town halls since this legislative attempt happened. And frankly, that would be not in order. Their focus should be right now with the legislature. Now that the legislature is bulking, maybe they should go back out to the public. But no, outside of that rally in my community, I'm not aware of anything that Glenfarne has had to come talk. You don't like this bill, Frank. You don't like the sharing of the money with Western Alaska. That's what makes it unconstitutional. I mean, it does say in the bill it's not a dedication of funds, right? So it is subject to appropriation every year. I don't read it and see that it is unconstitutional. It may be bad policy to be earmarking money that goes specifically only to a particular group of Alaskans, but there's nothing unconstitutional about it, I don't think. I mean, you are earmarking a project, not earmarking. You are drafting legislation that's going to benefit only a portion of the state of Alaska with regard to the pipeline. Craig, you're funny. Ben will have one of his staff members investigate. Yeah. I'm short on staff at this point. It would require me. I've already written it down. HB 93. I'm investigating that. Chris is wanting us to back up, press rewind, and go back. Just got home. Did I miss anything good from the legislature? You're going to have to catch the recording. Let's see. You've got a link here, and I don't have a way to copy that link. Let me see it again. Is that it's a waiting action 34 tab? I don't know what you're showing me there, Frank. I know it's the waiting actions tab. Bills and laws, bills, awaiting actions. And then awaiting action by governor. I'm looking at your, yeah, it doesn't tell me. 34-pound tab 2/4, 2 of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know. I'm not sure which tab you're looking at. Awaiting action by governor, awaiting action by House, awaiting joint action, awaiting all action. So the status has changed to, and I guess I can show you what I'm looking at here, folks. The status has changed to transmit to governor for all of these bills. Look at all the bills that have been transmitted to the governor. They're all from 26 too. Look at that. It's a lot of bills that he's got to look at. Some of these are concurrent resolutions, which are just a formality. We're only concerned about the Senate bills and House bills, SBs and HBs. So there's a lot of them that, and here's the other thing, Frank. I'm not super confident that the status here is actually correct, because I've seen this before where I know that there's a particular status of a bill that's correct, but the website doesn't show the correct status for whatever reason, whether it's a input error or it just hasn't been updated yet or something. So that part of the website. Again, I said this website needs some work. It could be better. It could be a better interface with regard to database access and queries. But this, I don't trust. But it is possible that some or all of this is accurate, and there are a lot of bills waiting to be transmitted to the governor or have been transmitted to him. Yeah. Good evening, Harold says simply end the property tax break after 6 years. See, this totally misses the point of cost of project over the life of the project with regard to property tax. I know, and we're going to have to agree to disagree on this. The whole point of moving to a volumetric tax, it can collect the same amount of revenue as a property tax. So it's just a different vehicle to collect tax with. But in one of those vehicles, you assume liability for lawsuits. In the other one, you do not. The volumetric tax is not something that's going to be sued over. We can guarantee that a property tax that comes back in the future is going to increase the cost of managing the project because somebody is going to sue over the valuation assessment of the property. So it has nothing to do with the revenue that's actually being generated. It has the cost of the project. So if you sunset or end the property tax break after 6 years, then you're literally telling the people who are investing their money on day one that after 6 years, that they know the project cost is going to go up after 6 years because you're going to get sued. This is one of those things that is a little bit further, bigger picture, further thinking that the legislature is not prioritizing. In their conversations, they're only talking about, the revenue that we can generate. We need to end the tax after so many years, and then we can increase the revenue that we get. Okay. Unless it doesn't generate any revenue because it kills the project. The financiers are looking at it as knowing that the cost of the project goes up in the future. Why? It's a marginal project already. So why would they say yes? It's just, I don't know why they would say yes. Maybe I'm speaking premature to here. All I'm saying is it is one more reason to say no. Who elected staff to transmit bill? I have to interpret your question, Frank, and that means I'm at risk of giving a bad answer. Nobody elected the staff who's going to transmit the bill to the governor. They are full-time hired staff out of the clerk's office, likely. There's at least one staff member that works in the speaker and probably the Senate president's office that are full-time staff to manage the affairs of the presiding officer. And then there are legislative lawyers that are full-time staff. So they have nothing to do with any elected positions. They're regardless of who shows up, who gets elected in November, who gets replaced and who doesn't. This nonpartisan staff remains in the legislature year after year after year. It's the continuity. This is the deep state, if you will, for the state of Alaska, at least the legislative branch. They're the ones that make the legislature run. They're not elected. No elected member, nobody that gets elected and makes decisions on staff gets to make decisions on this staff. These are staff that are hired by legislative affairs to conduct the business of the legislature. If I am interpreting your question correctly. If they insist on a volume tax, then add a price index to capture the rising value of the gas. Yeah, I get it. We can find all sorts of reasons and ways to maximize the revenue to the state of Alaska. And every time that we do this, every time that we say, let's just squeeze and get just a little bit more money out for us because we want more revenue for the state, it tells the project developer and the financiers, we're not going to make as much money. Our profit comes down. And those in the state that are squeezing this here, they're like, yeah, that's right. You don't need to profit as much because this is our project. The state needs its money. We need our fair share. Except you don't have somebody else to build the damn pipeline. I'd understand coming at this from the perspective that says we can just continue to push and push and push and find how to squeeze more out of this turnip. If you could just say, okay, fine, Glenfarne, and find investors. You don't want this? We'll move on to the next developer and the next set of investors. You're behaving in a manner that says that's what you have, instead of recognizing that you've got one developer and likely one grouping of investors who are interested in this project. And if you muck this up, there isn't a second chance. There's not somebody else waiting there to do this. You don't, like, we waited 10 years for somebody to come in, more than 10 years to come in and do the project. You don't have the alternative. You don't have any kind of leverage in this conversation that says, we don't need you, Glenfarne. We don't need you, investors. We're going to have it our way. You don't have that. Harold, if increasing revenue were the goal, then you can recognize that with lower cost gas, as low a cost gas as we can possibly get, resulting economic activity that doesn't currently exist. For example, if the nutrient facility starts operating, there would be economic activity that could be taxed and you would have additional taxes. If the gas furthers mines that get developed, that are currently not operational, not permitted, and there's additional revenue, right? Data centers come in. There are other businesses that develop because we have lower cost energy and a consistent supply that the developer can commit to, right? Rely upon. And that economic activity generates revenue to the state. Of course, none of that exists. None of that, it's all in theory, right? Very hard for people who are grounded in the very short term and the here and now, and we've got this project and we've got this tax, and I don't want to say no to reductions in taxes now because I can't see how I could get more revenue in the future. But this is the concept of an economy growing because of the availability of low-cost energy and the state's revenue picture improving because of the economy growing. The problem is that we don't have the broad-based tax in place that would capture a broad growth in the economy. We have made this decision to focus on oil economy. And this is the carryover. This is the business as usual. We can only see this. We can only see what we've done in the past. We've got an oil pipeline, so we need to have oil taxes. Now we've got a oil pipeline taxes. Now we're talking about a gas pipeline, and so we need to have gas pipeline taxes. And we can't see anything other than what we've always done. Focus on our one-trick pony and just keep making it do tricks. We can't see anything else. This is why a broad-based tax that pulls a little bit from a broader economy. Remember, the GDP of the state of Alaska is not just oil development. There is GDP, gross domestic product, wealth being created across the broad economy, and we're largely not tapping into that. We're just focused on this one little sliver of our economy. And it leads to conversations like this, which says, oh, we'd really like this pipeline, but you know what? I'd like to say yes to a volumetric tax, but what I really want is a volumetric tax that gets us more money in the future. Like, it's continuing this business as usual thinking. Yeah, I should say Senator Wielkowski will disagree with me. Yeah, I take that as a compliment. I must be doing something right. Okay, thanks for clarifying. The Senate in 381 put in a union no compete amendment. No, I do not know whether that is in 3001. I can do a check on it, but I don't know whether that's still in. Would surprise me if the governor kept that in. Probably not in there. But I mean, I would fully expect that the legislature puts that back in. The left is going to demand that. Something like that, I would guess. Changing subjects slightly. Where are we at on the Dan and the other Dan? The faux Dan and the Senator Dan. So the challenger Dan, Dan J, decoy Dan, has, my understanding, filed an appeal, and there is a administrative judge or a judge that's going to be making a ruling as to whether the Division of Elections was correct in what they're doing. We'll wait to see what that ruling says. I suspect that this is going to carry on through multiple appeals, maybe even to Supreme Courts, in order to figure this out, right? One side of the political argument is, as long as we can keep digging away or picking away at Senator Dan Sullivan, this is in our benefit. I'm of the opinion that the longer that this goes on, that you've got two Dan Sullivan, the voters then just have to decide which Dan Sullivan they want. Because nobody's talking about Peltola. She can't even get a word in edgewise. Everybody wants to talk about Dan. Hey, I'm Mary. Anybody want to hear about me? No, we just want to hear about Dan. It's a problem for her. How does she get a word in edgewise when everybody just wants to talk about the drama? Now the voter just has to know, I don't want that Dan, but I want this Dan. You just got to pick between the two Dans. You don't have to consider anybody else. I just know which Dan I want and which one I don't want. This is really bad for Mary Peltola. If she or one of her campaign strategists came up with this idea as a way to help her win an election, in my opinion, very bad advice. Okay, back to the subject at hand. Rural Alaska is underdeveloped. You don't say. Not just rural Alaska, all of Alaska. If you travel to other locations, other cities, other locations around the globe, you will see buildings with cranes on them. You'll see large construction projects happening in other places, right? You don't see that in Alaska. Not just in rural Alaska, Anchorage too. We've got a problem where we are tolerating mediocrity. We are tolerating mediocrity. And the reason, the large reason, is because we have got a lot of business inputs that are expensive business inputs. And the legislature, our leadership, our focus in the state is not in reducing those expensive business inputs. It is just accepting them. Here is an opportunity to reduce the input by reducing the cost of energy. Building a connecting the rail system from the Anchorage metropolitan area or the rail belt to the continental United States, for example, that would be another project that would help reduce the cost of transportation. Then you would have a competitor with barges coming up from the coast would have a downwards effect on the transportation cost of goods. Okay. These are things, these are big picture things that people in positions of authority and power of leadership should be considering for the benefit of all of Alaska, because that's what would help us move forward. We would see cranes on our buildings, and there'd like be building projects and things growing because the costs have come down and make growth possible. But instead, we're just accepting mediocrity. We're accepting the meager federal handout, especially rural Western Alaska, addicted to the federal dollar. And I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but Native corporations, they are the future of the state of Alaska. They are positioned. They have special dispensation that my corporation is never going to have with regard to relationships with the federal government. Special dispensation that gives them an advantage. And they are one of the greatest opportunities for the future of Alaska to make us competitive with other entities outside of Alaska, if the leadership of those corporations would recognize it. And you talk about sovereign, they need to take a larger role in taking care of Western Alaska and the people that they're supposed to be representing or benefiting. My humble opinion. It is a fairly ignorant opinion because I don't know completely what every corporation is doing for their native communities. But my sense of the matter is you got entire communities that are being taken care of by the legislature in unorganized boroughs, which means local government is non-existent. There is an economy to be had. We just don't want to. It's far easier to just rely upon state and federal spending. But yes, I agree with you, Harold. Rural Alaska is underdeveloped. Stop funding the workers' positions no one works at. Yep, I got you, Chris. Let's see. Alaska regional corps are over 20% of the entire economy. I don't know that to be inaccurate. They do have great potential for the state of Alaska. Chris is asking a question. Are they still holding hostage the project, the pipeline for defined benefits? Not that I can see. I think that the defined benefits conversation is awaiting an election and a new governor. That's what I think is what they've resigned that to. They don't have the votes to override the governor's veto in the legislature currently, and so that is dead right now. $93 for heavy equipment operators in Fairbanks. Okay. Somebody makes decisions on when to transmit a bill to the governor. Yeah, somebody does. Those are well, I take that back. The staff doesn't necessarily make the decisions on when to transmit, but they are the ones that do it. So if 93 hasn't been transmitted, it is possible that it is leadership saying we're not going to transmit that bill. It is possible that that is the case. I don't know that to be true. But if all of the other bills get transmitted and HB 93 is just sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting and it never gets transmitted, then something else is at play here, and it's not staff needing time to process it, right? There's something else at play. Again, It is written down on my note to follow up and ask a question and get an answer for you. You can stop asking tonight because I will not be able to come up with an answer on HB 93. I will have to check tomorrow. Yeah, this is a dead horse that we've continued to beat on here too. Maximum benefit to the state could be the cheap energy to the people. That's the way the legislature should be looking at it, in my opinion, if they were prioritizing the people. Tani is exactly right. Don't expect, if they legislature fails to make a path forward for this pipeline project, don't expect other big projects to come in that would need some kind of treatment like that with the legislature. The message is being sent: we don't care. And this is this is the thing that I've been trying to highlight over the last few days. Is you've got one political persuasion, you've got the political party on the left, the Democrat Party, whose party platform that they voted on and accepted this year at their convention literally says pause LNG exports because it's going to increase global warming and we need to study it. I mean, if the Democrats want to bank that as their strategy for power in the state, then conservatives and Republicans ought to just beat them over the head with it. You're going to have high cost energy unless you do something about the reliability of energy. Windmills and solar panels is not going to cut it. And you can't put enough batteries in. Batteries don't generate energy. They just store it. See, there's no path forward with this clean energy crap for Alaska. It is going to have to be gas or nuclear or hydro, coal, stuff that's reliable, proven, reliable. You solve the energy problem, and then you've got an opportunity for economic growth. I don't know how. Yeah, we're accepting mediocrity here because we're not focused on private sector economic growth. We're focused on fighting over the scraps at the government table. Yeah, we should send a sympathy card to Glenfarne. Thank you for being patient with our legislature. We do sincerely apologize for their ignorance. Yeah. Yeah, Rick, you've got a great point. Legislators represent the knowledge of the rest of the people. They are a reflection of us, are they not? It's a true statement. Our public economy is based on how many federal dollars we receive, a good portion of it. The largest portion of our state budget, though, is coming from permanent fund earnings, not from federal dollars, but they're really close. State GDP is significantly tied to federal dollars coming in, especially when you consider the healthcare. Okay, lots of federal dollars flowing in for healthcare. So yes, we're not based completely on federal dollars, but it is oversized in our state for sure. Miguel, Michael Dukes and I may talk about it on Thursday. I don't know what he wants to talk about. It's his show. Yeah, I've heard this other argument that Decoy Dan has perjured himself, and I don't know exactly what that's about. I'm unaware of the argument or the accusation that he's perjured. What did he lie about? I'm not sure what that is. If it is in relation to his initial on his name, where he filed an application and he put his initial as S instead of J, or leaving it off, and that's what we're saying he perjured himself. Okay, I guess I'd have to see the evidence, but that sounds like a stretch. It sounds weak. Like I wouldn't expect it to hold up in court, but anyway. Craig, I'm not even going to talk. Whatever she does in her bedroom's her business and none of mine. And I wish she would keep it that way. Yeah, this is the thing, is that once you go into the courts, then discovery can happen and all sorts of things, all sorts of information then can be pertinent, can't it? Yeah. Okay. Let me pause here for a second because I'm at the end. I want to bring something else up here, and we're going to talk about, I got to move this over here. We're going to talk about fraud. And there was a conversation earlier that this ties into. There we go. Okay, this is from a news article here from our local news station, KSRM Radio Kenai news desk. You know that there's been some fraud found in Medicaid down in the States, and they've been pursuing this. The federal government has been pursuing this, continuing to pursue it. Well, 2 Kenai Peninsula residents are facing criminal charges in separate Medicaid fraud cases. Federal officials are describing this as the largest healthcare fraud enforcement action in U.S. history. Okay, if I scroll down to the bottom for context here, we're talking $6.5 billion collectively in fraud. Okay. Charges were unveiled Monday, according to the U.S. Department of Justice. 455 defendants, $6.5 billion in false claims. Okay. Among those were charged 36-year-old Marcus Edward Olson of Kenai and 47-year-old dentist Joseph J. Mercy, along with his businesses. Olson's been charged by information with medical assistance fraud, theft, and falsifying business records. They allege that Olson billed Medicaid for personal care services he never performed while employed as a personal care attendant for a Medicaid recipient. Some pretty disgusting allegations in that regard. Of course, these guys are innocent until proven guilty, right? Separate case, prosecutors charged Mercy and his 2 dental practices with a scheme to defraud, theft, and medical assistance fraud. According to the Fraud Control Unit, Mercy and his businesses submitted $83,000 in fraudulent Medicaid billings between 2021 and 2025. Charging documents allege the billings included dental services that either never occurred, were not medically necessary, failed to meet Medicaid requirements, fell below accepted standards of care, were unsupported by patient records, or were billed at higher level than the services actually provided. So $6.5 billion nationwide, right? We're talking about, and the reason that this kind of percolated up and why it ties into this, the tale of 2 dams here, right? You've got a federal U.S. Constitution that puts three requirements for somebody to be able to run for a Senate position, U.S. Senate position, right? And that policy that was put into the Constitution is to make that the possibility for someone to run for that seat to be as broad as possible, meaning we want the pool to be as broad, the opportunity for Americans to serve as broad. You don't even have to be a resident of the state when you file. You just have to be a resident of the state when you take office. Okay? So this finding people to serve in the Senate, the policy has been keep that pool as large as possible. And the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that provisions that states have put in place by law or by regulation, when they add a 4th requirement or they add additional requirements to those 3 that somebody would have to qualify for in order to get put on the ballot, that those things are unconstitutional. Now, they haven't said that you can't have an application process and you can't have a fee process. And there's certain things that they have allowed to be in place in order for the process to work itself out, and those 3 things to be implemented, right? But the notion that somebody who is saying they want to run for office that meets those 3 criteria, and they don't really want to put their heart into it, or they have nefarious means, that's not addressed in the Constitution. You've got 3 requirements, and that's it. So we as conservatives can look at this and say, oh, well, we know he's nefarious. We've got all of this evidence. So let's create this law or this regulation, and we're going to force this issue, and we'll create bureaucracy and make it illegal. Okay. It's like this fraud. This person, this decoy Dan is engaging in fraudulent behavior. Well, if you've got proof that it's fraudulent behavior, then it's a completely different issue, right? It doesn't have anything to do with whether he can run for office. It's whether he should be put in jail. So if there's fraud happen, if there's lies happening, if there's things that he's doing that are unlawful, then that gets forwarded to the Attorney General for prosecution. His name can be on the ballot because he meets the 3 requirements. We're either a nation of laws and we support the constitutional framework, or we're not. When we are faced with people, whether it's this situation where you've got Medicaid fraud, which is basically greed, it's lying, right? It's stuff that should be in and of itself wrong, because your morals, your moral compass says we're not going to bilk the federal government out of money that we're not entitled to. That's lying. And where I want to go with this is to show you one additional thing here. This is a paraphrase from President John Adams, and he wrote to the Massachusetts militia back in the day. I'm paraphrasing it because it was written in Old English, and Old English is hard to understand sometimes. As long as our nation remains free from the ideas and habits that are bringing ruin to so many parts of the world, as long as Americans remain honest and incapable of deceptive and immoral political schemes, we have every reason to be grateful for the place Providence has given us. But if Americans ever become skilled at deceiving one another and other nations, speaking the language of justice and moderation while practicing corruption and excess, presenting ourselves as open, sincere, and trustworthy while engaging in greed, exploitation, and arrogance, then this country will become the most miserable place on earth. Why? The reason is simple. We have no government power. We have no government powerful enough to control human passions when they are no longer restrained by morality and religion. Greed, ambition, revenge, the pursuit of pleasure, they're going to tear through the laws, the strongest safeguards, our Constitution, as easily as a whale tears through a fishing net. Our Constitution was designed only for a moral and religious people. It is completely inadequate for governing any other kind of society. So we look to our legislature, and we look to our leaders, we look to elections, we look to a lot of different people, and we say, hey, this policy over here needs to be changed. We need to do this thing over here, and the legislator ought to do this, and the governor ought to do that. And all of that is a natural reaction to this. The fact that we have people, and we have an increasing number of people who are lacking moral character in our society. And as long as that continues to grow, we don't have a structure in our form of self-government that can adequately govern us. It is going to fail. We're going to fall apart because it requires people. It requires the foundation of the country, which is the people, to come at the problems that we have from a moral position, having a moral compass, knowing that it's wrong to lie. It's wrong to do what Dan J is doing. You don't have to write a law about it because your moral compass says it's wrong. But if that's not going to be the case, if we're not going to have the self-discipline and have our own moral foundations, if that's not going to be a common thing across the theme of our country, then you're going to have to create a law to deal with this. And as soon as you fix that this year, next year you'll have to fix the next issue that somebody comes up with. Because there's always going to be something where somebody can justify doing something that's wrong because they don't recognize it as wrong. Their moral compass is broken. This is the larger systemic problem that we have in our country, and focusing on putting Band-Aids on it with lawsuits and the things that we have available to us is only going, it's just a Band-Aid. It doesn't actually solve the problem. Turning from our wicked ways, that's it. That is the easiest and the hardest thing to do. But that's what's going to be necessary. That's exactly what our founding father, President Adams, is speaking to. If we cannot have the moral compass that tells us that wrong is wrong, don't expect your government to be able to do it for you because it's inadequate. You would have to have some other form. You would have to have a benevolent king or some sort of dictator or something like that is the judge and the jury, and it can deal with a bunch of unruly people, immoral people, because the self-government piece doesn't work with a bunch of immoral people. Look at the finances of this nation. This current generation is requiring our elected representatives to go and balance the budget on debt that future generations are going to pay for. And those people, talk about taxation without representation, they're not even born yet, and they're getting taxed. We want solutions to come from printing of money that just causes inflation. And that's stealing our money. It's stealing future generations' money that they haven't even earned yet. That's morally wrong. This is morally wrong. And yet even the Republican Party, even the candidates that we're supporting are part of the problem. Hey, I'm going to make sure that there's $1 billion funneled to Alaska for our healthcare, and we're going to strengthen our healthcare like we've never done it before. It's immoral, but we're going to champion it, and we're going to send him back because that's the right thing to do. Am I lying? No, this is the truth. Our country is going to come apart with this type of behavior. We don't have a government. We don't have a structure, a system of agreeing to live together in this self-government. We don't have that if we don't have a common moral compass that we can all agree to. All right. I'm off my soapbox. Will Ben ever run again for any office in our state? I don't know, Miguel. We'll see. No, I haven't been following any lawsuits. Did you say study it, Ben? Not another study of the study of the study. Then becomes invalid. Yeah. We don't need more studies. It would be funny. Actually, it actually would make a really good point, Tawny, if constituents all across the state started sending an IOU to the legislature of their heating bills. Yeah, I think it would be a great PR stunt. As long as you've got somebody to be collecting them on the other side to show how many are showing up and the scale of the problem, I think it would be great. if it could be organized. Like just photocopy your bill, ink out your name and any address, and send it to them, showing how much you're paying in energy, and the point would get across as long as somebody's there to collect them. Great idea. Hard to execute in reality because who's going to take the time to do that? But I think it's a great idea. I think it would actually be more pertinent than writing a letter because numbers don't lie, right? Like my bill, send them 2 bills, send them one from last year, send them one from this year, and show the increase in cost of energy, right? I mean, it would be great. It's a great idea. Excuse me a second. I'm perched. New bumper sticker. Lord, please forgive Giesel, Stedman, Wilkowski, and Keel. Yeah. They know not what they do. Yeah, great. Not your dentist anymore, hon. I didn't catch that. I just announced to my wife that her dentist has been arrested for Medicaid fraud. Yeah, Craig, I don't think we did not get any special deals, but we are not on Medicaid either. So there you go. She says she feels a little bit validated right now. Okay. I think there's more to that conversation that's going to go on behind the scenes. Y'all are not going to be privy to that. Frank, what are you saying here? Read court cases. You have a sitting House legislator who did not, Gabrielle Ledoux. Yeah, that's interesting. Sometimes Gabrielle Ledoux's situation is not ignorance, but running for the assembly and city councils, that type of thing, can tend to be ignorance when districts, if they're not residing in the right area and they didn't realize it. Yeah, some of that is legitimately just ignorance and not knowing any better. I don't think that's the case with Gabrielle Ledoux. I think there was some nefarious behavior happening there, and hopefully that court case will get resolved sometime this decade. Okay, I see my name here. Frank, thanks, Frank. I believe Ben just answered the question as well as I definitely will. Appreciate it. Okay. Ryan Long, thanks for chiming in. I think your amen comment was to my soapbox. Thanks for, I don't recognize your name here. Maybe you're a first-time listener or a first-time commenter. Welcome and thanks for participating. Yeah, Chris, this is a concern of mine. And Chris says the future generation will revolt for having to pay for the people before them. Yeah. Here's the thing. You and I, because we're participating in this program and we're part of the human record now, like I expect my grandkids and kids' kids will be able to see what their granddad said someday, right? I will be on record as identifying the problem. Do not blame me, future generations of carpenters and my progeny. Don't blame me, all right? I am raising my voice and saying we should not be doing this. I have many opportunities to be taking federal money for all of my farming adventures. I have taken 0, okay? Do not blame me. Do not blame me. So Craig wants to know how the peonies are looking and when we'll be harvesting. So we have buds forming. On a positive note, Some of the plants that did not come up last year because of the winter have come up and returned. They're probably going to be smaller than they were before they died, but they have resurrected. We'll call them resurrection peonies. Anyway, what probably happened is the freeze killed the buds on the roots, and they had to go through in a complete cycle, a complete year of developing. So as the stems are coming up to be the flower, the root is also producing the bud that's going to be the stem next year. And then that bud already exists when the snow comes and the ground freezes, right? So it survives as long as it stays frozen. But we've got those winters, those crazy winters where, January or February or whenever, December rolls around and you got 40 degrees, no snow, the ground is thawing, and that bud thinks it's spring and it starts growing. And then it freezes again, and then it dies. The bud dies. The root didn't die, but the bud died. Well, go an entire year, there's energy in the root. They create another bud. That bud turns into a stem, and now we've got stems. But we probably have roots that aren't super healthy. So probably should not allow those to bud out and just clip the buds and allow the energy to go into the roots so that they regain their strength. But on a positive note, some of what we lost has come back the second year, like we suspected or like we had hoped would happen. Last summer, when things didn't grow, we made a decision to not react or respond immediately and to give it one more year. We could have dug up all those plants and replanted at our cost. And here we would have dug up plants that would eventually produce some more. So I think the decision is going to pan out. We now are pretty confident in the plants that aren't coming back are probably truly dead, and we'll need to replace them or figure something else out. So I don't know whether those new plants coming up are going to equal more crop this year. Likely they will not, but we'll have to wait and see kind of the strength of the plant, how many stems they produce, and what's the size and quality of the stems. My understanding is that there are other farms that again suffered this winter, and it may be a case where Alaska peonies, at least from South Central Alaska, are going to be in short supply, which means the price should come up, the demand should come up, and those of us that do have some peonies should see a really good market this year. I'm hopeful that that's the case. Anyway. I mean, it's farming. It's a gamble. It's always a gamble when you're dealing with the weather, but that's what we do. Put money in the ground and hope it grows. Okay. Yep. No, mushrooms, Rick, are, I think, a one-time a year thing. I think the conditions were just right. We had some cool weather, and then we had a couple days of really hot, dry weather, and that is what caused the mushrooms to bloom, if that's what it's called. And we found a few more. I mean, we had 2 large bulls come out of the field, and then a handful of them as we found later, but nothing. No second harvest. And I'm not expecting it. We've found morels on our property before, but after spring, after the first, you first see them, you never see them again the rest of the year. So it's a once a year thing. Baby cow is doing fine, growing, chewing its cud, eating hay, doing what baby cows do. It's my daughter's project, and she takes care of it very well. I can tell you that finding quality hay has been a problem. It's been a challenge, and that's part of the nature of trying to do this in Alaska. We just need more quality hay. But there's many other things that you could do with land that is more lucrative than turning it into a hay field. So there's that. Got to make a decision that you prioritize hay. Anyway, Maybe one day we'll have our own hayfield and we won't have to worry about decisions that other people make about hay. Yeah. Dixie says, as my kids used to tell me, we are the ones who will select my retirement home. So it is best and nice. Our kids will decide if the legislator's retirement. Yeah. We be nice to your kids because they will be taking care of you someday. You make the financial situation such that it is harder for them to make ends meet and then expect them to take care of you. What goes around comes around. Oh, Frank, I have the utmost respect for the Alaska economy. There is so much great potential here if we could just get out of our own way. Yeah. I traveled to South Korea in 2015 or 16, and I was shocked. I was surprised. It was amazing to see the numbers of high tunnels and greenhouses that were right next to the rice paddies. I traveled from the Seoul metropolitan area where we flew in to midway down the peninsula, the Korean peninsula, where there's a ROK Army base, and that's where I was stationed down there, TDY. It was about a 2-hour bus ride. And consistently, outside of your metropolitan areas, outside of the cities, the more rural areas, you would have, as far as the eye could see, rice paddies, high tunnels, and greenhouses. An amazing number of them. So this Alaskan is looking at it and thinking, wait a second, it gets cold in Korea. They have invested in infrastructure in order to enable them to grow more food. And I'm thinking back to Alaska, and I'm like, yeah, we've got to get federal dollars to flow in before we put up high tunnels. And the only reason we're putting them up is because the feds are paying for it. And it's a few people. And we still, 90% of our food gets imported in from farmers outside of the state of Alaska. Now, granted, Korea and Alaska are not the same climate-wise, right? Totally different situation. But the point is, if you want to have food and you want to be able to have it local, then you have to invest in the infrastructure. Even if it's expensive, you have to invest in the infrastructure to afford you the ability to be able to produce your own food. And we're choosing not to do that. Our pleasure-seeking behavior and our decisions for our money say, hey, we've got to have more profit, and we're going to do things with our money that are more profitable over here, whether it's investments in making money or investments in our own pleasure. And we're going to prioritize that, and we'll just ship in this low cost, low quality food. And we're not even going to be concerned about what the health considerations are for eating low quality food. We're not even going to be concerned about it. How much of us would be healthier and not have long-term health problems if we were eating healthy? I mean, like 80% of the nutrients in your fresh produce are gone by the time they get to Alaska. That's just the reality. It is weeks old by the time it gets here. It's not that it's bad for you. It's just not as healthy as it would be if it was fresh. So that takes a toll on a body over time. All we have to do is prioritize our resources. Maybe a smidgen less on personal pleasure and a smidgen more on self-sufficiency, right? I mean, after all, we are a society that does need to eat. And if somebody somewhere else decides they don't want to send the food to us, we're going to be in a bind. Anyway, that's what you asked. Yes, the economy is not all bad. Like it's not growing great, but there's great opportunity, and lowering the cost of energy helps all of it across the board, helps it all have better opportunity. Sorry to hear that. Rick says he thinks they've lost 14 fruit trees. Yeah. Yep, that's a bummer. And trees, like everybody knows this, but trees are something that takes a long time, a lot of time invested in getting them before they can produce fruit. So you can't just turn that around. At least a peony is a 3-year crop, right? Trees are probably twice that, at least. Yeah, so building compost. I'm not sure what the operation is, but if you've got animals, their byproduct, the animal byproduct, makes great fertilizer. So you just have to figure out how to get it into the compost pile. So chickens you can't put directly on your gardens. Rabbits you can. They don't have to compost. But chickens, they're too hot and you need to compost it. You want to put your cow, this is all stuff. You'd probably be better off to ask AI or Google it than ask me in this regard. But all of your scraps from your household, instead of throwing them in the garbage, put them out in the compost. I mean, these are all common sense things if you're small scale. But I know that we've got a couple of giant poo piles from the cows that have turned into good compost and are in the process as well. So the larger the operation you get, the more amount of poo you're going to have and the more compost. I don't know how we would do things without a tractor nowadays to turn big piles over, stick the forks in and turn it over. And we're such small potatoes here. We're just a hobby farm, except that we do have some business interest here. But anyway, just keep at it. Start small. You think about agriculture being the foundation of a human existence, right? It is. We all have to eat, and that's where we all started. In Alaska, we've been so affluent with oil money and with economy that we're able to just import our food, and we've lost the skills and the habits and the knowledge of self-sufficiency and growing your own garden, right? So you got to start small. I mean, it's where the people who came across, westward expansion, Denver didn't exist before Denver was there, right? Or any of the major metropolitan areas. Whoever arrived there first had to start small. They didn't. Anyway, so that's how you do it. That's how agriculture starts. You start small and you grow on your successes. Don't think that you're going to get something going right off the bat as a brand new somebody who's involved in agriculture, farmer, and you're going to start big. It is better for you to make the mistakes in a small situation than it is lose the farm in a big situation. And yeah, anyway, get off on a tangent here, but as with our small fishing communities and our fishing families, so too is our farming communities and our small farming families that are, family operations is going away, turning into these large corporate entities. And we're not going to be a healthier people because of that. It's not in our best interest. So start small and prioritize it. If you're going to make a living farming, then don't expect to have the same lifestyle as people who are not farmers. Like it's a priority and you have to do with less, but there's value there. Do I think the spores came on the tubers? I think spores could have come on our tubers, but our tubers have been in the ground for years, since 2014. So I don't know what would explain not having a bumper crop of morel mushrooms anytime between now and 2014 if they came on maybe the climate or the temperature conditions weren't exactly right even between the last decade, but I don't know. Maybe it is once in a decade you get a bumper crop of morels like this, right? And it has nothing to do with the tubers. It's naturally occurring in the environment. They don't just spread by spores. The mycorrhizae fungi that is in the ground, they spread that way as well. So perhaps they've been growing from the roots for a decade, and now there was just perfect conditions and the population bloomed. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I kind of doubt, because the tubers are washed. When we get them, they're not full of dirt. They've been washed off. They come packaged in plastic bags with wood shavings, right? So they're somewhat clean. Could there still be spores on them? Absolutely, there could be. I'm sure that is a possibility. Now, I don't know. I didn't ask, or maybe I don't remember whether the roots were sprayed with an antifungal in order to prevent mold from happening in shipment. That is a possibility too. And then if that's the case, then the spores would not have survived. I would not expect them to survive an antifungal treatment on those roots before they arrive up here. The process of processing the roots before they come up is to dunk them to loosen up the dirt and wash them off. And if they had a fungicide in the solution, then likely it's not the spores. So I think it's less likely that is the case, and more likely that it is a naturally occurring product or plant up here. Is it a plant? It's a mushroom. It's a naturally occurring thing up here, and it was just the right conditions. I'm skeptical that it's the roots. Yeah, you're exactly right. Everything agriculture-wise is harder in Alaska. And this is why I have gone to a insulated building as a design and the technologies that I've used. Because if we're going to be able to, if you want produce in the wintertime, you've got to have some way to do that, because you can't grow it in the ground. It's frozen. So you got to do it inside. So I'm looking forward to having tomatoes in February that are ripe. I'm very excited about that. I don't know. I guess that's a possibility. I don't know how far mushrooms can travel. Could it be mushroom spores from the 2019 fire? I don't know. I'm not anywhere near the 2019 fire. I'm on the opposite side of the peninsula. There's a lot of trees and a lot of land between me, but could the wind have carried it and deposited it in my field? I guess it's a possibility. Yeah, good point. When you're talking about economics, you're going to make a whole lot. You have the potential to make a whole lot more money with flowers, cut flowers, or other products than you do hay. But you can't feed cows on flowers. So if you want beef, if you want goat, then you have to have hay, which means you have to prioritize the land necessary to grow the hay that you will need. We're talking about the value of the resource. Is it in the taxation, or is it in the benefit to the community? The value of the land. Is it just in the amount of money that you can make off of it, or is it in value of the quality of the food that it can help produce? There's trade-offs. We have not prioritized land going towards producing good food for us. We have said, let's ship that in and we'll solve that problem a different way. Maybe with beef, it's a different, the cost, it might be a wash if the alternative is bringing it in as opposed to growing it yourself. But with fresh produce, it's not frozen, it's fresh. And that means you got to get it to your plate as soon as possible. Otherwise, the nutrients start disappearing and it loses its nutritional value. That is a fact. And that can't be overcome with anything other than growing it locally. So I guess I could if you were going to transport it quicker, but then your cost goes up, and we wouldn't want, we're not going to afford that. Yes, we do need hay farmers. Yeah. You want high quality food, let the forest burn. Yeah. Not only that, but having the moose range burn, because it's all dead spruce right now, or preponderance of it is dead spruce, is all going to come back with deciduous, right? At least initially. That will be good for the moose population. So yeah, I agree. Let it burn. Outside of human threats to human populations, let it burn. Well, there's the idea, Craig. Whether it's gas or whether it's electricity, lower cost energy, it will make heated greenhouses possible. And I say that because I'm not in a place that's got geothermal, but if I was located somewhere where there's copious amounts of geothermal, I would use that. I mean, that would make sense. So locations in the interior that have access to geothermal heat, and I'm talking actual real heat, as opposed to what I've done with my gas system, that doesn't heat my greenhouse warm enough. But geothermal, that's hot heat that can heat things up to growing temperatures, then yeah, that would be great. But if my natural gas can actually produce electricity, and I can use the electricity in a more efficient manner than the gas to heat, meaning I'm using a heat pump, then that in my mind is a better use of the commodity, of the gas commodity. Gas is like a coefficient of performance of 1. 1 unit of gas gives you 1 unit of heat, whereas compressing certain fluids gets you a better coefficient of performance. So 1 electrical unit compressing gives you 3 to 5 heat units out. So it's a more efficient use of that same commodity. Anyway, I've got some ideas there that all require lower cost energy. Yeah, I get it, moose and fish, but there's not enough moose and fish. Well, there's not enough moose. There's probably enough fish to feed Alaskans. We would quickly deplete the supply of moose if we were to try to feed our people off moose. Okay. Carrie says she's got pumpkins, a few inches tall. I have a tomato that is, well, I didn't go look at it today. It might be bigger, but it was like that big. The first little green tomato on my tomato plant. But we've already harvested cucumbers. Very tasty cucumbers. Okay. It's like a family conversation tonight, isn't it? Raised beds are good. Thanks, Chris. We've got a couple. We just planted a bunch of strawberries, although I don't think they're doing very well. That was our fault for not planting them soon enough. Yeah. Go to the cooperative extension or do some research there for compost, because I didn't give you very good information, to be honest. Yeah, I think it is coincidence that you had mushrooms show up in peony fields, or it's just the right conditions, the right they're out from under the canopy of trees, so they're getting more sunshine. Maybe. I don't know. It's a mystery to me. All I know is it dried good and they go well in food, and that's all I know. Okay. Yeah, I would love to make it up to Chena Hot Springs and take a look at the greenhouse up there. I'm drawing a blank on the gentleman's name, but he came and visited me in my office in Juneau, and I had a very long conversation with him. What a genius of a man. I have not spoken to him since, but I would like to come up and visit and see what he's got going on in the hot springs up there. Yeah. I'm a fan of big game. I don't intend to go out and hunt for them for other reasons, but I don't have a problem with it. And I'm blessed when people bring me. So there's not enough wild game to feed our entire population, even to supplement it very far and still maintain a population of wild game. So we have to be able to husband a crop of protein of some sort, whether it's chickens or goats or cows or whatever. We've got to be able to grow our own protein. Yes, Bernie. Yeah. I enjoyed the conversation with him. Very a very big picture thinker for sure. Entrepreneurially minded. Okay, I draw the line at seaweed. I absolutely draw the line at seaweed. I've eaten it. I will eat it, but it's not something that I'm going to prioritize. If Alaska can grow it, and I think we can grow it in copious amounts out there for a commercial operation, and then we could market that, great. Perfect opportunity if it'll make business sense. It's not going to replace the salads on my plate. I'm going to draw the line. Seaweed is for other critters, not for me. I'll eat it on my sushi. How's that? That's about it. My family, girls and kids, would like the little crispy seaweed packets, little wafer. They would eat it, and yeah, it's not for me. Not for me. All right, folks. Tuesday night's a wrap. Thanks for participating. Let's see what happens tomorrow. The only thing that at this point I think that could happen is we would see something get calendared, because nothing is calendared right now. I don't expect any meetings to happen tomorrow because there's been no notice. So anyway, I don't know what that means. We've already talked about it. Could mean that they're just going to blow this off and say we're done, or they're working behind the scenes right now and they'll pop a solution out on 381 in the conference committee. I don't know. We'll see. I know the conference committee has not met yet. I have that on very good authority. So, and that is the whole conference committee. That doesn't mean the majority members are not meeting, because that is very possible that could be happening. 2 or 3 or 4 of the 6 could be meeting and having a conversation and not even talking to the minority. So that is a possibility. They don't need the vote of the minority, likely. So don't even need to include them. I mean, that's not good governance, but that's the way it is. Anyway. All right. You guys have a great night. We will catch up with you tomorrow, hopefully. Please don't send me seaweed. My wife just chimed in and said she will eat seaweed with you. Not with me, with somebody else. But don't get any ideas. We don't need any seaweed around here. Good night, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.